Hey everyone, welcome to TYHub Let's Talk podcast. Today we're in the Irish Air Corps in the Flying Training School hangar, and I'm joined today by three wonderful pilots who all fly different aircrafts. I'd like to introduce you to...
So I'm Captain Declan Hickey, 101 Squadron.
I'm Captain Aidan Higgins from 102 Squadron.
And Captain Niall Malarkey from 104 Squadron.
Fantastic, thanks for joining us here today, or let me in here today really, because you're already here. Can you tell me what aircraft you fly?
So in 101 Squadron I'm flying the brand new C295 Maritime Patrol aircraft. We've two of those that arrived last year, and they're replacing our old CN235 that are retiring from service now.
I'm flying the Learjet 45 at the moment. There is a project ongoing to replace that aircraft, so hopefully within the next 2 to 3 years it'll be something newer and shinier, more exciting.
Exciting. And what's up for you?
I fly the Pilatus PC-12 aircraft. We have 4 of them, so we just took delivery of them in the last few years, so still a relatively new aircraft as well.
So you're getting used to all the gadgets?
Yeah.
Still, or you've already got
We
used to them?
were kind of fairly well up and running, but there's still a couple of mission profiles that we have to develop further, so it's still every day is a school day.
Every day's a school day. Fantastic. Well, if you don't learn something new, it's not a new day, is it? So what I'm just gonna ask a couple of questions. We'll start with what inspired you to become an Air Corps pilot in particular.
So for me, I joined the Air Corps always wanting to be a pilot. Ever since I can remember, it was always something I was interested in. Always been interested in aviation. Grew up in a household where my father was heavily involved with it. And as I got older, going through school, you're looking at various different avenues to become a pilot. And for me, I always found the variety that the Air Corps offered. Not only becoming a pilot, but the overall skills and variety of skill sets that are on offer was hugely advantageous for me in particular.
When did you join the Air Corps?
So I joined back in September 2011, did my cadetship, and I received my wings in early 2014.
Okay, so it's 3 years and then you got your wings.
Thereabouts, yeah. The length of training depends on a number of different factors, size of the class, aircraft availability, etc. But for me, it was about 2.5 years. I joined the end of 2011 and was commissioned and winged at the beginning of 2014, so it was a little over 2.5 years for me. And in the last 10 years of commissioned service, I've been able to serve in a number of different units inside and outside of the Air Corps, as well as serving overseas. So it's been a busy and very interesting 10 years.
And you flied in the most recent aircrafts that have arrived in the Air Corps, so they're fairly recent, within the last 12 months anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, so we took the first delivery of the Airbus C295 Maritime Patrol aircraft in the summertime of 2023, and then in around autumn the second aircraft arrived. All the pilots, technical personnel, the mission system operators, load masters, we've had over 120 separate courses throughout 2023 to get all of our personnel up and running and trained to operate the aircraft throughout all of last year. So I went and did my pilot course the beginning of last year. It was 3 months to complete, and we've been flying the airplane now since the autumn of last year. So it's been a very, very busy but enjoyable last 12-15 months or so.
And did you have to go abroad, or were you able to do all the training here for
So we did all the training abroad, yeah. So we work with Airbus Defence and Space. We're their international training centres based in Seville in Spain. So that's where we did all of our training, from classroom, technical training, right up to flying their Category 4 Level D simulator. We did nearly 100 hours of flight time in the simulator before coming back here, and when we received the aircraft we did 1 or 2 training flights with the Airbus crew, and then from there we progressed on to doing our own operational conversion training, which again goes on for a number of 14 different flight profiles to get us up and running.
Fantastic. It's exciting to get new aircraft.
Big time,
big,
yeah.
Big new toy.
Big new toy with a lot of new capabilities that are going to be on offer for us, not only in the Air Corps but throughout the Defence Forces in the state as well, which is going to be a really great benefit for us going forward. It's not all been flying, we have to get everything up and running, and all of the documentation, all of our profiles, our doctrines, all of that is either provided to us or self-generated by us. So when you're not flying, you are heavily involved in getting the aircraft flying by means of getting all your documents ready.
So it's a fairly hands-on job.
Absolutely, yeah.
Every day is something new.
Absolutely. No 2 days are the same.
I'll come back to you and ask you another couple of questions.
No problem.
But I know, so you fly it's a CASA, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
as it was known as a CASA, it's moved on to Airbus
we're
Defence and
not allowed to
Space.
call it that anymore.
It's always going to be known as a CASA, I think.
Yeah.
It's in our hearts anyway.
It also got a new colour, did it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So as across the fleet and the Air Corps over the next number of years, the intent is everything would be in the same military grey. So our old maritime aircraft would have been a noticeable blue colour for operating out over sea, but we've transitioned to that grey colour. That'll be synonymous now with the aircraft.
So it's more it'll be more recognisable now as well for the public to see it as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Captain, you fly the Learjet.
Yes.
So that's the smaller jet.
It is, yeah. So at the moment, it's the only jet aircraft we have. I've started flying it towards the end of 2019. I went to Atlanta in America to do my simulator training, my initial type training, all about the systems on the aircraft, how it operates. And I came back. I had to do a couple of flights on the actual aircraft to get myself fully qualified. So I fully qualified at the end of January, and I've been busy flying since then. COVID, obviously, we took a little bit of a hit in terms of some of our training output and things like that. But we did a lot of other missions, and I've done quite a lot of interesting things on it. Been to interesting places, and it's great. Yeah, I really enjoy it. So
it's not so. It's known as it is the Learjet.
Yes.
But it's not just for. I know a lot of people would know it as for flying the president to various places, but it does an awful lot more than that. You are an air ambulance as well.
Absolutely. So we've done a number of different missions on it. I know we've done prisoner repatriations on it. Air ambulance obviously being the kind of main other role that we'd have. Additionally, I've done humanitarian stuff. We brought aid to Beirut during COVID. We did support for the evacuations out of Afghanistan. We based an aircraft out of Abu Dhabi, and we were on standby there, ready to go in and evacuate Irish citizens if worst came to the worst. But I think there's a big misconception amongst the public that, this is a big luxurious aircraft, and, for anyone that's seen it up close, it's relatively small, and it's not all about bringing ministers, bringing the president, doing VIP transport. I personally have done, I'd say, 20 to 30 air ambulance missions in my 3 to 4 years on the aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a number of other things, obviously, that we do.
And when did you join?
I joined in September 2014, so I had slightly longer cadetship than Declan, just down to having a slightly bigger class. So I got my wings in October 2017. My first actual post was on the old CASA 235, so I spent 2 years there, and then I made the jump across to the Learjet. So.
And this is where you're fixed now, so this is your position that you'll be in for the time being anyway.
For the time being, there's always the potential you can move to different aircraft. The worst thing you can do is feel secure flying whatever type you're on. At the moment, though, with the project going to replace it and some of the changes we're expecting, I'd say for the time being I'm safe enough where I am. So.
And what inspired you to become a pilot? Well, specifically the Air Corps?
Similar to Declan, my dad's heavily involved in aviation. He's been flying commercial for the last 30 to 40 years. He himself had, through the years, many small two-seater microlight aircraft. So when I was younger, I remember mowing the grass on the runway just so he could bring me flying, and I've always wanted to be a pilot. Then it came towards my leaving cert, and I was finishing school, and I was looking at my options, and for a lot of people, going out paying for the training yourself is just not feasible. And I played a lot of sport, still do play a lot of sport, and I love the physical training aspect and things like that, so the Air Corps was an obvious choice. Like working in teams, and I'm really, really happy that I joined. I've really enjoyed my career. So.
Super. And Captain Malarkey, you fly a PC 12.
Yeah, Pilatus PC-12. So as I said,
Is that one of these?
No, it's bigger than these. Can hold a single engine turboprop by the same aircraft manufacturer, but it can hold up to 9 passengers. But we're the ISR and reconnaissance squadron, so intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. But not unlike other aircraft in the Air Corps, we do a number of jobs as well. So we'd also do air ambulances regularly enough, logistical flights, but also surveillance, along with any other training or any job really that comes in that we're able to do. So it's quite a versatile aircraft, and it's a bit of a workhorse in the Air Corps. So it's
the workhorse of the Air Corps, would you say?
I mightn't get away with saying that, but yeah, it
almost
does.
got away with that one.
Yeah. It has been. We got them relatively recently, and especially during COVID, they did a lot of missions, and we sent when the HSE needed extra capacity for testing COVID samples. For example, we were flying them over to Berlin and other places, Munich, for testing, and again, air ambulances and delivering vaccines or whatever was needed. So it's a versatile aircraft, and we are happy to do any and all missions that we're capable of doing that once we're asked. Yeah.
And what inspired you to join?
I've always been interested in aviation, but also from being a very young lad, the military. So then just the two things together really caught my interest, and I was always specifically interested in the military aircraft. So I didn't join straight away. I went to college and worked a few jobs and that type of thing, but found myself here eventually, so happy to get in. I joined at the same week as Aidan, so we're classmates, so we went through the same cadetship and have all commissioned then with our wings on the same time. So that was about 3 years of training, so that was great to get done eventually in October 2017, and then enjoying flying the PC-12 at the moment.
Super. When you say you've done the cadetship, so when you do the cadetship, where is it? Is it here?
So it's kind of split between two locations primarily. So you'd start down in the Defence Forces Training Centre down in the Curragh, and that's where the Army, the Air Corps and the Naval Service cadets will come together for a period of time for what's known as military socialisation, and that's getting you from your civilian into the beginning of your military lifestyle training. Air Corps cadets will do a number of months down there before returning back up here to the flying training school, and that's where you transition from your basic military training to focusing more on the aviation side, and then from that the flying training school is split into 2 phases. There's the ground school phase and then the flying phase. So the ground school phase is your ATPL syllabus. You're doing all of the required examinations, the theoretical background, and you're also then learning about the systems on board this aircraft towards the end of that ground school phase, that you'll then transition onto the flying phase of your wings course, which is the bit that everybody wants to get towards, to become learning how to put it all into practice, and becoming a pilot. So that's where it's all based out of here.
Okay. When you're training for becoming a pilot, do you get to try out all the aircrafts, or do you how do you specifically become a PC-12 pilot or the Lear pilot or the CASA pilot? How do you and not a helicopter pilot? How do you do that when you're in the cadetship?
So throughout your cadetship on the wings course, everything is done on the Pilatus PC-9M. So it's an ab initio trainer that takes you from zero flying, essentially, unless you, like Aidan, who might have had some flying beforehand coming in. I didn't have any flying experience coming in.
Okay.
And you're trained exactly the same way. So all of your training disciplines are conducted on this aircraft, and when you finish your wings course towards the end, that's where you as an individual put forward your preference for, I prefer to be a fixed wing pilot, a rotary wing pilot, and a lot of it comes down to the needs of the organisation as to see, well, where do they need pilots at the time? Do they need more helicopter pilots, more fixed wing pilots? And depending on the size of the class then as well, they might split the class accordingly, and it will come down to where did you place in your class, and then versus the needs of the organisation, and you essentially will get. Some might get a choice, but more often than not, you're kind of pointed towards either side of the ramp for fixed wing or
Gently
helis.
guided.
Gently guided, but it's absolutely never concrete.
Okay.
Throughout everyone's career, there's always scope to move. There's always scope within a unit to move between different aircraft. So just because you go one way doesn't mean that's you stuck forever.
So everyone starts on a PC 9.
9, yeah.
9. And then you're flying the PC 12 now.
Yep.
Did you fly anything other than... did you go from 9 to...
PC 9 and then qualified? That's the end of your initial training. You're qualified with your wings, and then generally you go to either fixed wing or helis. So the PC 12 that I am flying now replaced the old Cessna aircraft that we have. So they were in service for decades, and now the 4 aircraft we have are they're far more capable. So that's what I'm flying now. But yeah, we all train on the PC9 and then we go our separate ways.
And did you have any flying lessons
Beforehand?
No.
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
So you're the only one.
Just me. Just me.
So you were really into it even before joining. Did you have an idea of maybe going commercial route at all, or?
It was something I looked at doing. I know when I finished my Leaving Cert, I initially applied for Aer Lingus. I wasn't, I really wasn't aware of the Air Corps at that stage. I only made it so far in the Aer Lingus competition, and that was very competitive. So I went back to university. I was studying aeronautical engineering in Limerick at the time. So I did a year of that, and I was halfway through, and I really thought, this is not for me. It's like, no matter what, I'm going to end up flying one way or another. So I was then made aware of the Air Corps through a newspaper article. So I was like, that read into it a bit more. I thought, this is something I really like the look of, really interested in that. So I just started prepping. I found out what was required, different elements of getting into the competition, the fitness test, aptitude test, and I just started preparing as best I could. And then when the time came around, I was luckily successful to be selected as one of the 8 that turned out in my class.
So before you read the article in the newspaper, you weren't really aware of it?
No, I wasn't. No.
Was there any element in school at all where you were introduced? Anyone?
For me, it was my own kind of background knowledge, I suppose, and it was only at the time through discussing it with teachers or discussing with guidance counsellors that it kind of came up in conversation, as opposed to being something that was directly guided from the school. And that's just in my scenario, going back to when I was in school.
Okay.
So it was known about, but it wasn't advertised as much as it could have been, because I was in quite a large school, and I know from it, I've had schoolmates that have come either through the Defence Forces or the Air Corps in particular, and that's not just through the pilot stream. There's so many other streams you can come into that the Defence Forces was always known about but never really advertised, and the scope of what's on offer here as well.
Going on that, if you were able to talk to yourself in transition, so if you did transition year, I'm not too sure. Did you actually do transition year?
I didn't do transition year. No,
no?
Personally, no.
I did it. Yeah.
You did it.
Yeah.
1 out of 3. In transition year or 5th year and 6th year, if you were able to talk back to yourselves, go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, like for going the career, looking down the career path, what would you say to you, the younger you?
At the time, so taking into account back then, like social media wasn't a thing.
No.
It was, so it was a different way of going about how you'd find out information. And at the time, like as the guy said, newspaper articles were always a big thing. Going online was becoming really popular. But I would have always found trying to get out and talk to people. Once you make a connection, you have an in, and it's something that I think at the time I remember thinking it's a bit kind of daunting going. Taking that step to try and ask someone, whereas like any job or any industry, it's not as actually big and scary and daunting as you might have once expected. So like we're no more than any other organization very welcoming. If not, we want to try and encourage people to come knock on the gate and like we will do everything we can to bring you in and show you what's on offer. Whether you don't have an idea as to what you want, and we can show you the wide spectrum of things that are on offer, or if you're an individual like us who are like, we always wanted to be pilots or just technicians, ATC, you can get targeted information direct from source, and the more you can do that, the better.
So to become a cadet towards a pilot, so there's 3 pathways that TYHub will be discussing with the Irish Air Corps. We're delighted that we're going to be talking to so many of its members. There's 3 different pathways. You went through the cadetship.
Yeah.
To get into the cadetship, what do you need to do? So you can nowadays you can go online, you can see what the competition is, because it's called a competition rather than a job interview or an application form. So you go through that, but what do you need from school to become to be entered into the cadetship?
So you can go online on military.ie in the current competitions section. It'll give you a full breakdown of the eligibility criteria, and that breaks down, you know, your leaving cert requirements, what kind of system it follows, and there's no CAO application to become a cadet, but there are certain criteria that you need to kind of meet, and that's where the targeted guidance there.
Yeah. So if they were younger, if they were thinking about it at all, would you agree that maybe if they look into looking at at military.ie and what the competition is now in transition year, let's say, so that they can choose the correct subjects and go the right path with their levels of subjects to get the right results in their leaving cert, and that's only step 1.
Yeah.
So there's not, but other than that, there's not really many steps after that.
No,
but that would be the kind of the key one to get into the cadetship.
Yeah, and the fact that there's so much information available online, you can see all of the, not only the eligibility criteria, but all of the terms and conditions that are required of an applicant going through the process and upon successfully receiving a cadetship. But as you said, there's only the application is just one element of it. There's a number of different stages throughout the competition, and what's excellent now with regards to the recruitment and competition section in the DF is there is very well laid out criteria and guidance for every single step, be it your psychometric testing, preparation for interviews, the types of questions and competencies that are going to be asked, the fitness test criteria. There's training plans available online, and everything is available at source for any young aspiring individual who wants to come in. And going back to what I said earlier, when you're armed with that information, going talking to people, be it individuals who are serving, who have served in the past, or through your schools and your guidance counsellors, the avenue is there, and you have a huge amount of ammunition to go into a competition very well prepared.
Asking questions is key.
Big time.
Knowledge is key. Can you tell me what is your most memorable experience as a pilot?
I think it's safe to say that, like, throughout all of our careers, you've so many memorable experiences, and some of them might be really big occasions, but some of them might be really small and innocuous things that you will never forget. Like going back to, you know, the first week that I joined, there was only 3 in my class. You know, I'll never forget that week where I finally made it in the door, and, you know, being thrust into this new world. That was something that, you know, will always stay with me. You know, I was lucky enough to fly in this aircraft as an instructor for a number of years. I was part of state ceremonies and flypasts, leading flypast on our National Day commemoration on our aircraft, and I'm currently flying, you know, introducing a brand new airplane to service and being one of the first people to get their hands and go flying on it. You know, we could stand here all day and talk about the memorable experiences that we've had.
You've got lots of them.
Yeah.
And but is there any one, like, I mean, was there only 4 in your class?
3.
3.
Yeah.
So you and 2 others.
Me and 2 other guys.
How many was in your class?
8 of us in total.
8. So
We're
it's quite
bigger.
small.
Yeah.
Going through the cadetship. How many pilots are here in total?
At present, there's a little over 100 across the ranks.
Okay.
So like, there's been just under 450 pilots ever winged throughout the service of the state over the past just over 100 years. So it's a small team, but you realise that you're just one part of the team. You know, pilots can't do their jobs unless everyone else is working in tandem with them, and we just feed into the bigger machine as well.
Have you got a favourite aircraft?
Oh, it's the Learjet.
That's
Obviously the Learjet. All three agreeing with the Learjet there, yeah.
I think we're all gonna
We're all
vote for our own parish as well.
Your current planes, is that?
Yeah.
Yep. It's a solid yes all round. I actually do have a question from very specific question from Caroline in Castletroy in Limerick. She's a lovely student that's wanting to join the Air Corps as a pilot herself. So she has very specific questions. You might not have read these beforehand. You may not be able to answer them, but I'll ask them anyway. Actually, you should be able to answer them. What is the highest altitude that the Irish Air Corps is permitted to fly within Irish airspace?
I actually do know the answer to this one. Only because the airplane I'm flying is the only one that can actually get up there, so unlucky on that. It's 49,000 feet is the highest. We're allowed, the aircraft I'm flying is able to go up to 51,000. The reason we have it limited to 49,000 is it's probably a little bit of an old, outdated thing, but it's not. It's because mostly the Air Corps hasn't any of its own research done into it, is because of cosmic radiation. So naturally, the higher up you go, you're above all the clouds, you're higher up in the atmosphere, so you're more exposed to radiation from the sun effectively. You know, the research kind of says that over a long career that this can cause some health issues. It's relatively uncommon, but it can be linked between the two, so that's the reason we're limited to 49,000 feet.
And is that for just the Air Corps, or is that for every aircraft that's flying in the sky?
No, so most operators, as far as I know, don't have a limit, but it's kind of determined by the limit of what the aircraft can actually do. So even though the Learjet can go up to 51,000 feet, you know, there are very specific circumstances in which you can do that. So you need to have, you know, probably no passengers in the back, pretty light on fuel, you know, optimal weather, and even at that, you know, you could spend the whole time getting up there, and as soon as you get up there, it's time to come straight back down. So it's kind of a balance between what's efficient in fuel and what the aircraft itself can actually do. So,
very last part of the question, we're just in relation to that one. You can go 49,000 feet high. What is the lowest altitude you can fly before it's deemed not safe?
So the rules depend slightly. So for us, we set a base of 1,000 feet above the ground. Now I know for Declan and 295, they operate out over the sea, and they very regularly do sighting passes where they'll slow the aircraft down, they'll descend, and they'll take photos of boats of any kind. You know, it can be large container ships, fishing vessels, just different things in particular. And as far as I know, it's 250, 300 feet ballpark.
So for us, we can descend down when we're over the water. We operate normally down to about 500 feet above the sea, but in certain circumstances, depending on what the scenario dictates, if it's a search and rescue mission, which we have a capability to deploy life-saving equipment, we can go down to 250 feet if required. And likewise, if there's a vessel that we absolutely need to get eyes on for various different reasons, and that's normally 250 feet above ground or above sea level, depending on where you're operating, would be the lowest for a fixed wing asset. Now there are other scenarios, and it's deemed by our regulations that we can go lower. And in other aircraft, from the fixed wing side, 250 feet is about as low as you can safely go unless you have prior permission. But from the helicopter side, they can go lower. They're designed to go lower and slower. But I'll let the helicopter gurus fill in on all their numbers and their
let
side.
us know about that. And what about the PC-12?
So if
Really
we're
quickly.
could go up to 30,000 feet,
Yeah.
again similar to what Aidan's saying about the max height, we'd rarely enough be there, just with fuel efficiency and mass and balance passengers and stuff. But if we're going into the UK or Europe regularly up to 28,000 feet, but then if we're doing a surveillance job maybe, and we need to look at something on the ground that's quite small, we could be at 3,000 feet, 5,000 feet, maybe 10,000 feet
Okay.
before the camera is just doesn't have enough resolution. So depending on the job, we could be 1,000 or 1,500 feet on a navigation up to 30,000 feet going into Europe. So it
Fantastic.
varies, yeah.
Well, I hope that answers the question for Caroline, and I'd like to wrap it up here and say thanks very much for joining me for a quick chat about your careers. All exciting. New jets arriving. You're still playing with your new toys,
Yeah,
and
another one on the way. So we have a
another
third
one on the way.
Third transport aircraft will be
Oh
arriving
wow!
next year
Okay,
as well.
fantastic.
So the two maritime variants we have are in service, and then mid next year we've a third aircraft arriving, the same type, but it's fully configured for freighter and cargo equipment, which will be the first for the state again, giving us a strategic airlift capability which we've never had, which is going to be again new and exciting times ahead.
So we just need some more pilots.
Keep them coming.
Keep coming. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fiona.
And that's all for today's podcast with TY Hub Let's Talk in the Irish Air Corps.